All right. Well, welcome again to our LAK group, Time for Five. This is a webinar series that we are recording to help you with your career transitions. And we are happy today to have with us McKenna Stern, who many of you may have spoken with McKenna at one point or another as she was talking with you about getting scheduled with a coach and getting you set up with our program. So welcome, McKenna, to the Time for Five.
Thank you.
Um,
Happy to be
we're
here.
happy to have you. So what's interesting about today, though, is that you're kind of playing a different role. So for LAK, you kind of wear a couple different hats. You obviously work alongside me and the others with our career management services at LAK Group, but you also work on our workforce management side of LAK Group as well, where you're working with our executive recruiters on sourcing candidates for positions that they are looking to fill, that they are recruiting for. Those could be, again, mostly executive positions in non-for-profit space, but we do some work in some other roles in the for-profit world as well, too. I know we had looked at some HR positions with Diana that she is trying to fill, and so we have a bit of a variety, I guess, if you will, of who we recruit for. But what you do, well, I guess you know what. Let me turn it over to you, McKenna. Why don't you kind of explain for all of us what you do when there's a position that needs to be recruited for?
Yeah, so what my role with the Spano Pratt side of things is I am the researcher. So what I'm doing is I'm doing these preliminary searches, going on LinkedIn, going on different types of websites, trying to find boards of directors, leadership executives within a company, and I'm compiling their information, looking on their LinkedIn profile, and I'm putting all of these names, email addresses, if I can find them into a database for Diana or some of our other executive recruiters to contact. So I am the person who is doing all of the initial researching. Um, so if you're contacted for from any one of our positions, chances are I was probably the one that found you online.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, it kind of goes both ways, right? And this isn't just in the case of LAK Group, and this really could be the case for any position that's being recruited for, any position that's trying to be filled. It's kind of a two-way street. We put the posting out there and wait for people to apply. But what you're saying is, yeah, but we're also going out there and trying to find people who could be good candidates for the role as well, too. And you're doing that on LinkedIn. So kind of a trick question here, I guess, but um, of the individuals on LinkedIn who it could be being looked at by recruiters to fill positions for that they're recruiting for.
Yeah, so you're right. It is kind of a trick question because everybody is being looked at. Everybody is being recruited for these types of positions. There are a lot of different filters and different, locations that I can filter on LinkedIn. But my initial search is going to be very broad until I get some more specific keywords or specific skills that we need to be looking for. So I'm looking at anybody and everybody. So that's why it's so important to have all of your work related documents and work related roles and profiles up to date, just so I can see uh, the most recent profile that you have, and
Awesome.
because that's what I'm going to be making my initial judgment on.
So I think at last count, I read something close to 1 billion people on LinkedIn now. It's close to a billion. I shouldn't say people. There's close to 1 billion LinkedIn profiles out there.
Right.
So, I mean, you're not going to look through 1 billion profiles to try to source candidates. So you kind of touched on this a little bit in terms of criteria that you get. So you got to start to narrow down, right, from almost 1 billion down to who are those critical few that could be potential candidates. So
Right.
um, who provides you that information that you use to kind of start to search for candidates?
Yeah, so the hiring manager from the organization or some HR executive manager, the person who is going to be filling this role is going to be the person that provides this information to either Diana or our practice lead, Lindsay. They are going to be the ones that have, what type of position are we looking for? Are we looking for a CEO, a director, an upper executive manager? Um, and also, what kind of sphere do they need to be in? Are we looking for somebody who has been working in education, in government administration, in workforce development? Um, so the hiring manager is going to be the one that gives us all of the qualifications that we need in order to start our preliminary searches.
Gotcha. Um, So with that information, and I imagine one of the big keys that you mentioned there is kind of location, right? Because LinkedIn is worldwide, and so obviously you probably are not going to be looking for somebody that lives in, I don't know, Florence, Italy, when you need somebody to work in Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
Exactly.
Probably not going to work out. So maybe explain a little bit in terms of how the hiring manager or that organization may come up with criteria, or maybe talk us through an example of one that and what's maybe one that you're working on and some criteria that they've set out for you, for us to search for candidates.
Yeah, absolutely. And the main difference is here that a lot of companies will have very different qualifications, and some could be very specific, some could be very broad. I worked on a job posting that said, okay, we need to have somebody be um, a practicing Catholic. So that's going to be a very specific kind of person that we're going to look for. So I really had to narrow down my searches. But another company that I was working for was very broad. We are okay with somebody who has even been in an executive director position for less than 6 months. Um, but some companies are going to be obviously, very specific about the kinds of qualifications that they need for their candidates. So what I can do is I can quickly share my screen
Yeah.
and kind of let you guys see how I even start this initial process. I'm using LinkedIn for a lot of this, so this episode is really going to be about how important it is to get your LinkedIn profile all set up and all polished up.
Well, and,
The
and as you bring that up, the anecdote that I'll add to that too, or I guess the additional commentary I'll add to that is, as you know, we work with so many individuals that don't have a LinkedIn profile or don't think that it's as important to update that LinkedIn profile. And
Mhm.
what you just said to that is especially important, right? Because you never know who's going to be looking at your LinkedIn profile. And when you're in a job search, it could make all the difference in the world of you can get found. And isn't that great if you get found for a job instead of you having to go out and apply for jobs? You're one step ahead if a recruiter calls you. So that's um,
Exactly.
that's awesome. All right, so you got LinkedIn up here.
Yep.
So you're going to start working. I imagine, imagine it wasn't too easy to find a practicing Catholic on LinkedIn. I don't know how many put that in their profile, but
That
so
kind of thing
let's,
wouldn't be LinkedIn research,
yes,
but that was a different kind of sector.
you got it. So let's go ahead and have you walk through kind of a criteria and a search. So I'll take it away.
Absolutely. So one of the very first things that a hiring manager is going to give us is what kind of sector are they going to be working in? The majority of the companies that, like Andy said, are going to be working in the nonprofit sector. So we're going to be um, working with a lot of, filtering with nonprofits, but first and foremost, they're going to tell us, are they working for schools? Are they working for, homelessness development solutions? So one of the first things that I would do is start to type in a keyword of what I'm looking for. So for example, we were looking for somebody in workforce development. And the reason why I'm putting that in quotations is just because it's a phrase that I'd like to keep together. The second thing that they give us is what type of person are they looking for? Are they looking for a CEO? Are they looking for an executive director? For example, our search, we are looking for a director. So that's mainly what I'm going to be putting in my search bar. I'm going to hit enter. And the first thing that I'm going to be seeing is people, jobs, posts, groups, anything that could be related to either directors or workforce development is going to pop up on my screen here. But I don't want to see jobs that are open. I don't want to see posts about workforce development. I want to see the people that are in that sector. So I'm going to click on people. That's one of the first filters that I'm going to be putting on here. And you see I have 34,000 results here.
34,000, yeah.
And this is, nationwide, worldwide. So you'll see we have somebody from Madison, from Ashland, Milwaukee, greater Milwaukee area. Another thing that they're going to be telling us is we would like somebody who lives within, 50 miles of said location. So the next filter that I'll be putting in is the location. So for example, let's say we're looking for somebody who lives in the city of New York,
Right.
and that severely
1,000.
got down my
Yeah.
my pool of people that I'm looking at. So I've got the people, I've got the city that I'm looking in. Now we're going to go to all filters. And there's a lot of different filters that you can kind of weed out candidates by. But what I will use for the most part is, it doesn't necessarily matter the company, past company, or the school, unless the hiring manager decides, we really want somebody who used to work at XYZ company. I'm going to be using,
or maybe could it be, hey, I'm an alumni of Columbia University. I give preference to somebody who's an alumni of Columbia University as well. So then maybe you would click that.
Exactly.
But
right.
if they don't say that, then that's not typically a search criteria. Okay.
Right. And that usually helps because then I can keep my search a little broader and give them more candidates to work with. So let's say, for example, Spano Pratt, we specialize in working with nonprofit organizations. So I'll choose, I want somebody who's had experience in working in nonprofits. And let's say we are looking for somebody who is looking to create and develop new educational systems for people over the age of 45. So we'll also check, we want somebody who has been working in the education sector. Language, unless that's really important, then it doesn't matter too much right now. Keywords, you can also type in the previous company here if you don't choose it up above. So those are all the filters that I'm going to be putting on for right now. So we'll hit show results and we'll see who all comes up here. So I've got 512 people to look through.
Cut it down in half almost.
Yes. So, and this is about the general number of people that I will be looking for. I feel like this is very feasible to do, especially when, as you'll see as we go through this, we kind of weed out a lot of people at the beginning. Sometimes I won't even click on this person's profile just based on what I see. So it's really important to, and we'll get into this a little later, to have, your full name, a good profile, where you're at, even just a tiny little bio right here, just so I click on your profile because I'm interested in seeing what you have to offer.
So this is almost like I often use the analogy of studies have been done on how people buy bottles of wine, right? And they buy based on the label, right?
Exactly.
And a catchier label, or even a book, the book cover, the book title at a bookstore, is what's going to catch people's eye and get them to pick up that book or pick up that bottle of wine. And that's kind of what you're saying here, right? Is this is your label on your book or your bottle of wine. And so I've got to be able to look and see which ones catch my eye. So, and you mentioned a little bit about that, but so I guess maybe walk through, which one of these catches your eye for the position that you're looking to fill.
Right. So at least this is my personal preference. I will always right click, open link in a new tab, just so I have my list outwards open in another tab. So let's go to Kelly, for example. I see that she has a good business profile picture. That's always nice to see. Maybe not so important, but she also has a verification on her LinkedIn. So I can see that Kelly has actually put in some work and effort into verifying and putting information on her profile.
Yeah.
we have her first and last name. If I just see that you have your first name and no last name, I'm probably still going to click on your profile as long as you have other information on your profile, but not having your last name on there is kind of going to make me think it's either incomplete or you just didn't spend the time to put your last name on.
Okay.
So I see, first last name. We have a short little bio of what she's currently doing, what sector she's in, and where she's at. I love to see that initially because that gives me the initial image of, okay, I know where she's at just by looking at the very first half of the page. So
Yeah.
I can continue looking on the last half. I see her
Let me go back on something real
Mhm.
quick, McKenna. Sorry to interrupt you, but
Yeah.
one thing, and I think you mentioned this, and I may have missed it, but so first name, last name, a photo. How important is having a photo or not in terms of that label on the bottle of wine? Will you look at profiles if somebody doesn't have a photo?
I will look at profiles if somebody doesn't have a photo. I may not spend as much time on your
Okay.
LinkedIn profile. It's just more attractive to recruiters to see somebody who has put in some effort into getting a very nice profile put onto your LinkedIn page, but I will
Yeah.
still look at profiles
Okay.
that have no photo. And that being said, too, I see that she kind of has like a plain banner
Yep.
background here. I do like to see that there's a banner background, not completely necessary, but I do like to see it
Yeah.
doing the research.
What have you seen any by chance? So Kelly here doesn't have one. Have you
Mhm,
seen any like I guess good and bad, right?
mhm.
Like start with the good. Like what's a good banner photo that you'd like to see that like, oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, so I like to see the banner photos that have to do something with what you're currently doing. So either it's something that has to do with your current company, or if you're working at a school, something that has to do with your school,
Mm,
or it's just something that's important and relevant to what you do. Um, Something that isn't totally relevant, like I'm not sure, like maybe a picture of an ocean or something. As pretty as that is and as attractive as that is on a page, I'm going to ask myself, okay, what does the ocean have to do with, your workforce development program?
yeah.
So
So keep the personal, the Facebook and the Insta photos off of there, right?
yeah, that's what
And
Snapchat and Facebook are for.
yeah, and hey, I know you love oceans and sunsets, but that doesn't really speak to you as the professional. Like, so that doesn't really tell me anything about you other than, oh, okay, great.
Yeah,
Who doesn't like ocean
who doesn't like
or
the ocean,
beaches
right?
and sunsets, right? Yeah.
Right.
So,
I
okay.
also say that I find some photo banners with like quotes on them, like their favorite quotes about either their industry or their work style. I really like those too,
Okay.
uh, because it gives me a better feeling for what does this person value,
Yeah.
especially when I haven't spoken to this person or email corresponded with them. I think it's a little nice touch, especially if you have a favorite quote
Good
that you
point.
like to display. Um, so going back to Kelly here, so I see everything at the top. This looks great. I also see that she has 500 plus connections. I always like to
Mm,
see that just because it makes me think that, okay, this person is well-rounded in their community or in their industry. Um, they are actively talking to people and they're they have them on LinkedIn so they can, go back to them if they have a question about their networking. It's always just nice to see that you're active on LinkedIn. Um, Although I have seen some good profiles that have, 150 connections. It's just a matter of um, how many people in your industry are actually using LinkedIn and how often you've been using LinkedIn.
On
Um,
the other side, though, right? Personally, I've also seen some where they've got 26 connections, right? And you're like, they're not active. They're probably never
right.
on LinkedIn. The odds of me sending them a message and them ever getting it are slim to none, right? Because who knows if they even pay attention to LinkedIn anymore, 26 connections. So they may be a great candidate, but I'm not going to waste my time reaching out to
Mhm.
them. Would that be fair to say?
I would say that that's fair. And
Yeah.
I have also seen LinkedIn profiles where they have 26 connections, but once I get down into their job descriptions and all of that, I see that they've been at the same company for 40 years. So they may not feel the need to polish up their LinkedIn profile because they're so established in the position that they're in. I do like to see that tenure at these
Sure.
companies, but like you said, if you're not active on LinkedIn, your profile is not going to seem as attractive to me.
Yeah.
And I'm going to see 26 connections. I'm going to be like, oh, I don't really know if I should contact this person anymore.
And then let's stress the point, right? Because what is it that you're working multiple positions at one time, and again, this is only part of your day job, so you've got a bunch of other things that you're doing every day.
Mhm.
So what's your ultimate goal here that you're trying to get? You're trying to compile a list, or
Yeah.
tell me what it is that you need to give, and in what kind of time frame to Diana or Lindsay
Mhm.
as they round out the recruiting process.
So usually with the companies that we have, we will get the information and we will start our preliminary searches. We have about a 2 week buffer between when we get the information and when we have
Mm,
what's called our go live date. And that's when we start actually posting these job postings online, and on the system that Diana was showing you guys in the couple previous episodes.
yep.
Um, so we have about 2 weeks to do this preliminary research, and I'm just compiling a list and putting names, email addresses, and phone numbers, if I can find them, into our database.
Gotcha. Okay. So what other things do you kind of look for here?
Yeah, so another thing that I see off of Kelly's right away is her activity. So I see that she has a good deal of followers. Again, that's not too important to me, but I do like to see that she reposted this 5 days ago, 2 months ago, 5 months ago. She's not, on it every day, but she's still active. And she's posting things, which is nice to see.
Hmm.
And then probably the most important thing that I'm going to be looking at is her experience. So she has been at KIP here for 8 years, and she's been the director of workforce development counseling full time for 11 months. So, one thing I'm going to be looking for, first of all, is the title. Is she actually the kind of person and position that we're going to be looking for? Does she have the relevant leadership experience that we need to see? Then I'm also going to see, how long has this person been here? So I see she's only been this director of college and workforce counseling developed for only 11 months. Usually, I would like to see people who have been in their position for at least a year and a half before I contact them, just because they're so new to the job. They're still learning the ropes of everything. Um, with a lot of these too, if I see that they're not quite qualified or they've only been in this for a short period of time, I might still contact them for networking purposes. I could ask them, you've only been here for 11 months. Do you happen to know of anybody else who's in this sector, anybody else in this area who kind of does similar things than you? And this is really, we have a team over at Spano Pratt who we just bounce ideas off of each other, and we're like, okay, she has a great profile. She's only been here for a short amount of time. And we kind of make a team decision just based on the feel of um, the profile, and um, just how good we feel about if she would be a good person to contact.
Okay.
So what I also like to see is these these bios, or
Yeah.
um, these we like
Descriptions.
descriptions, job descriptions, whether that be what you do uh, at your position, or what we also like at LAK too, especially based on our resumes, is we like accomplishment based bullet points. So I really like to see, I increased revenue by 41% in my first year.
Yeah.
Um, or just anything that you've done to better the company is something that I'm really going to be looking at, because that also gives me the impression, okay, you have been a stellar candidate or a stellar person that was at your previous company.
Yeah.
So I know what you can bring to the table for this next company. Um,
And in this case, somebody as a director of college and workforce development, one of their key measures of success may be like placement rate, right? So
mhm,
how many people, get placed upon graduation? Because I would imagine, somebody that's a director of college counseling, and seeing her college advisor, a
mhm,
description here, for a college advising core. Uh, she worked with college prep high school with, seniors throughout their college application process. So how
Mhm.
many of them got into the school of their choice? It would be you know, a good measure of accomplishment, I guess, if you will, right?
Exactly, right.
Yeah.
I do really like to see that. What I also will look at here, so she's been with KIP for 8 years, great tenure. It looks like she's held, a handful of different
Yeah.
roles within that
Some
company.
promotions. Yep.
Hmm. And then I also like to look at, how long was she at other companies? A year and 11. So she was there for 2 years, 2 years, a year and 1 month. If I see somebody on their LinkedIn profile who has been job hopping, they've held a position for 2 months, 1 month, 5 months, chances are I'm probably not going to be considering you for the position
Sure.
just because I don't like the hopping that you're doing with everything.
Yeah. Well, and in Diana, in one of our previous episodes, had mentioned too how important the months are in this, right? Because,
Yes.
2014 to I guess it was a volunteer role, the
Hmm.
New York Cares, but 2013 to 2014, that's a lot different when it's November to November than when it's January to November, right? And because
Exactly.
now it's less than a year, or it's January 2013 to November 2014. Well, now you're almost 2 years in that
Hmm.
role, where if you just put the years, it only looks like it's 1 year that you were there. But that's an important distinction too, I think, about the months, just tying back to what Diana had mentioned.
Hmm. So that's a great point, Andy. So my how should I say this? My distinction of whether or not this person is a good candidate is basically finished by the time I get to experience.
Okay.
So I'm really spending maybe 30 seconds, if that, looking at somebody's LinkedIn profile, and I'm making my decision just based on that.
So that's really interesting. So, and that ties with a lot of things that LinkedIn is doing now too, right? So it's by design that they're pushing a lot of things, that activity, that about section, the headline, everything's at the top in your work experience. They're pushing further down below.
Mm.
And I guess it makes sense based on what you're saying, right? So you hear from the LinkedIn experts saying, well, this is the way LinkedIn is now designing your pages so that you could see and clearly that's important because you on the recruiting side are saying, yeah, well, by the time I get down to your work experience, I've already made a decision on you, right? I've picked up the book, I've looked at the cover, drew me in, I flipped the book back over to get a summary of the book, and that's the about section, right? Then the activity and all that stuff. And then I'm going to go to the table of contents and flip through the book, which is kind of the experience and everything, right? If I
Exactly.
had to make that analogy again.
Hmm. Right.
Okay.
So it's a very fast process, which is
Yeah.
why
So
this,
you said, just to stress that, you said about 30 seconds you're going to review their LinkedIn profile before you make a decision to move them on.
if that, yes,
If that.
probably less than 30 seconds.
Less than 30 seconds. So I know we spent more than 30 seconds on Kelly Gallagher here, but are you gonna move Kelly Gallagher on as a potential candidate for the position, the director position that you're looking to fill?
I'd say that with Kelly, I would probably refer to some of my other team members just because she has only been in this director position for 11 months.
Yeah,
I'd say that just because I personally like her LinkedIn profile just because of how much I see on
yeah,
her. I would like to see some more descriptors of what these different positions that she held with KIP are.
yeah.
Um, so I would probably just refer to one of my team members.
So
I would
kind
say
of a
yes.
coin toss here. And again, we don't know that
Yeah,
Kelly's looking for a job. That's the interesting thing, right? Kelly could be very happy at KIP NYC here. And yeah, she just got into this role 11 months ago and maybe wants to get a little bit more tenure in it. So she may not even be interested. So she's a
exactly.
coin toss for you. Let's quickly go through a couple others followers then,
Yeah.
and see, you know, who others might you look at here, and see if we can quickly, I guess maybe I'll let you go through your process,
Mhm.
and you quickly look through it, and then tell us if you're going to move a person forward or not. And let's have you just go through that, and I'll be quiet and not ask questions.
Definitely. Okay. So let's move to Maria here. Open her up in a new tab. And I'll see that, again, she doesn't have a banner. Again, that's fine. I see that her profile is a little bit less professional than
Uh,
Kelly's was. It just looks like it was a selfie that was taken in her office, it looks like. Still, you know, a nice photo. She's got a nice smile. Um, I wouldn't necessarily, you know, disregard her just for this profile picture. At least she has one. I see that she's got 500 connections. This shows me what she's doing right now, where she works, where she went to school. This about section is a little bit short. Doesn't look like she put a whole lot of effort into it. Um, but who knows? When was the last time she was on LinkedIn? So we will see. It looks like it could have been 6 months ago. That was the last time she reposted something. And she's got 885 followers. So it looks like she has been posting. She has some activity on LinkedIn. So far, I'm okay with what I'm seeing. So let's get down to her work experience. So it looks like she's been the director at the Jewish Board of Family and Children's Services for a year and 8 months. And also, what I like to see are these skills that we have down here. A lot of times, the hiring managers and the organizations will say, okay, we're looking for somebody who works in this industry, who has had this title in the past, but here are all the skills that we will need them to have or what we would like them to have, you know, a must have versus a would be nice to have kind of thing. So I do like to see that she has, you know, budgeting, organizational leadership skills. Another one that's kind of common in this sector is fundraising or
mm,
grant writing. So I like to see the skills. Um, it doesn't look like she has a ton of descriptors as to what she was doing before. Again, not a big deal. I just like to see it. Um, she's been there a year and 8 months. Okay, that's going on almost 2 years now if we round it up here. And I see that she was at Upward Employment at Upward Pathways for 4 years and 5 months. Chances are I'm probably going to be uh, writing Maria down and adding her to our list of people to contact just because of, you know, she was in a director position for an employment service for 4 years and 5 months. So she has a good tenure um, and some good director experience. And again, this is all just based on what I'm seeing on a web page online. A lot of this information will need to be hashed out in the preliminary phone screen, and then if this candidate would move on to the interviewing stage, she can explain, you know, everything that she wants to explain, or things that we may have questions on in those interviews. But it looks like for Maria, I will probably be moving her on to the next section of our search. Now, the third one that we have here, you'll see it just says LinkedIn member.
mm.
So if I try to click on this person here, I don't have access to the profile. So the profiles of members who are outside of my network, I have limited visibility to these. So that may be a my network kind of flaw. I may not have enough uh, connections in order to see her. But a lot of times with these LinkedIn member profiles, they have created a like a private LinkedIn profile.
Mm.
If you have a private LinkedIn profile or for whatever reason, I can't see your LinkedIn profile, obviously I am not going to move forward with you
No way to get in
because
touch
I
with you.
can.
Yeah.
Exactly. And somebody may have a really nice photo, a really nice, little introductory bio here. That's that first page or the cover of the wine bottle or the book that you're looking at. I'm going to say, okay, I like this person. I want to learn more about them. I can't access your profile. Well, I guess not.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, the book is glued to the bookshelf, and
Mhm.
there's no content in it, so it's kind of a fake book there. So yeah, it's interesting that people do that, because it's okay, like the reason you're on LinkedIn is to be a public directory, and yet
Mhm.
you've made it private. And I get that, maybe for your own private professional network, but it really limits you professionally and limits
Right.
you in your career as well too. Because hey, that dream job could be right around the corner, and maybe you are in your dream job, who knows? But um, you're really limiting yourself on potential career growth.
Right. And
Okay.
another thing that we really use these LinkedIn profiles for, like I said with Kelly, we may not be contacting her about the director position that we're looking for. We may just contact her for networking purposes. So another really nice thing about having your LinkedIn profile is, up, polished, active, is that people could come to you for networking questions.
Yeah.
See like, hey, I saw you worked at this company. Can you, point me in the direction of your executive director? Um, and there is never a con to networking. You will all it will always come back around and you'll feel good about sharing this information with other people. And, you know, if you ever find yourself in a position where you lost your job or you're looking for a new job, you're looking to get promoted, the person who contacted you about networking, you can contact them because there's this mutual relationship between you two of just helping each other in the workplace.
So it's a bit of a pay it forward, right? It's
It is.
hey, you never know when you're going to need to be networking for a job, so always be open to networking with others as well.
Right.
Yeah, good advice. We could do a whole future topic on networking as well too, and using LinkedIn
Definitely.
to network. So
Hmm.
absolutely.
Yeah, I can just go through one more here. We can go through
Sure.
Paul. So let's take a look here. I see that Paul has a great business photo. Love to see that. 500 connections. He's in the place that I'm looking for. He's got this great little, he's the director of workforce development. That's exactly what we're looking for at, his company. Let's see. I love seeing these big,
Yeah.
detailed about sections. It really gives me a good feel for what this person is doing, what they're interested in. If they're looking for a new position, you can always put that in your about section. Say what you were doing in the past, but I'm looking to transition into, X new field. So I love to see that. And even though AI has, really come forward with the technology in recent years, we can tell if you used AI to write your about section. So it's important that even though AI is a great tool like ChatGPT, you can definitely use these to write your resume and to write some of your about sections on your cover letter or your about section on LinkedIn. It is so important to add your own flair to it. Then that gives your profile some personality and it's going to make me want to read more information on your profile, especially if you have like a nice catchy header up at the top. Um, I see that he doesn't have any posts, not the biggest deal. I just like to see it. I also see that he's been the director of workforce development at this company for 2 years and 8 months since December of 2021. He's got some photos that are attached to this. He's got a great description
Mhm.
of what he's
I
been
see some
doing.
percentages in there, see some numbers. Good.
Love to see the statistics.
Yeah.
So I I don't have to think about this one. Paul is somebody that I'm going to be contacting. Even though he doesn't have his last name on there, you know, again, uh could be taken off of there for confidentiality purposes, whatever.
Sure.
Um, but chances are I'm going to be moving ahead with Paul.
So I'm kind of, if I had to summarize it, then McKenna, I'd say, it's probably unlikely that somebody's going to have the perfect LinkedIn profile, but there are certain things that you look at that outweigh others, and there could be certain things that maybe you fell short, like not putting his last name under maybe a good reason. But he's got detail in other ways that makes his profile stand out and makes him a viable candidate. So it really is, having, ideally you'd have all of that. You'd have first name, last name, headline, more than 500 connections, a good about section, some activity. But if you have a good chunk of that, um, along with the professional experience, you're probably gonna be interested in them.
Exactly. If you have like 7 out of 10 of these things, we're going to be contacting you, or you're going to be put on our list as long as we can find some kind of contact information for you.
Okay. Cool. So it's just to kind of wrap up and summarize. Everybody should have a LinkedIn profile. Um, you are being looked at on LinkedIn. Um, and you never know, even if you're not in a job search right now, you never know when somebody may find you for that next opportunity. That could be, the opportunity of a lifetime, maybe, who knows,
Mhm.
right? Um, and 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 then I guess the last final piece I heard you say is don't don't put off networking on LinkedIn. So if somebody reaches out to you, even if it is a recruiter, you know, at least entertain the conversation, at least have some dialogue back and forth with the person. It's okay if you're not interested in the role.
Mhm.
But don't ignore the messages because to me it's one of those things like it's always good karma, right?
Right.
What goes around comes around, and though now may not be the time, a time may come, and you don't want to have to leave a bad taste in someone's mouth, I guess is
Right.
the right way of saying it. Anything else you'd add to that, McKenna, that I didn't say?
I would kind of just piggyback off of the networking piece here, that even if you don't know the answer to somebody's question, if they message you on LinkedIn, that's fine. Just tell them, hey, I'm not sure about this, but let me put you in contact with somebody who will know this. So then, even though you don't know how to help them, at least you pointed them in the right direction.
Yeah.
And so if they need help again, they're probably going to come back to you. And like you said, if you need help, you can go to them.
Or, hey, I'm not interested in this role right now, but I do actually know somebody who may be. Let me, you should take a look at, and I'll be happy to put you in touch with McKenna,
Right.
who I think might be interested in the role that you're looking at. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
as a previous recruiter back in my past life before LAK, I was thriving off of referrals.
Mm,
That gives me the something to bounce off of. Be like, "Hey, I heard that you're looking for a job from John Smith. Let's talk."
yeah,
It's a lot better than reaching out to them and cold calling, that's for sure.
indeed. Sure is indeed. Well, cool. Well, this has been awesome. Again, this is another valuable topic that I hope others get to enjoy in our video library. And of course, it's always helpful to hear from the other side of things, right? Because individuals, our clients can work with our coaches and hear this from our coaches ad nauseum, but I think it's extra special when you can actually hear from the other side, the recruiting side of things, the talent acquisition side of things, and how you and Diana and how others look at candidates. So thank you for your time and
Of course,
insight and for kind of revealing the process. And uh, I'm sure we'll catch up with you again on future topics as well. So thanks so much.
definitely. Thanks, Andy.